Hey Blue Rockers, Connie Willis here. This is what I've been working on, is getting together a great couple of guys, Sean Worthington of CloudCoin and also Stan Larimer, the Godfather of BitShares. So we want to welcome them to Blue Rock Talk with Connie Willis and Crypto Connie. Whoa, my buddy Sean dressed up
All
looking
right.
good. Can you guys
Hi,
see
Stan.
each
How you
other?
doing?
Okay.
Yes, yeah, looks
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Sean Worthington, Cloud, BitShares, Stan Larimer.
Hey,
Congratulations
Oh,
for
Sean.
putting
nice
it
to meet you.
together. So, just to get things going properly, and then we can get into the talk. Sean, can you tell Stan a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll have Stan do the same to you?
Oh, sure, that sounds great. So I got into science early, and I was accepted. I got to go to Stanford University when I was 16 and
Oh,
compete for a scientific expedition to Australia, and I won. And it was kind of like a survivalist challenge where you had to swim 500 yards, and you had to hike for hours and hours, and they gave us IQ tests and all of this like military tests. And at the end, they said, "Okay, now everybody start a fire." And I was the only one that was able to start a fire. And I ended up getting to go on this adventure. It was an expedition to the Australian outback. And what they did is they took young people from all over the world, from every like Oman and Japan and Italy and you name it. They had a very diverse group of people. And we went and did scientific work. We did like soil samples and vegetation surveys. We would walk out to places where people had never been before. So they had satellite imagery, and then we would go out there and do these surveys. And so that's where I kind of got into science. And I was able to meet a lot of interesting people and kind of learn about humanity in the process, because it was anarchy. I mean, it was living off the grid to the maximum, and it was quite an experience. But then I joined the Air Force and became a crew chief on aircraft, and that was the exact opposite experience, but it was a very good experience. And I'm right now a FAA power plant and airframe and power plant licensed mechanic. I haven't used it, but I ended up going to college where I studied industrial technology. And that's basically manufacturing stuff, and decided that was not the future. And so after 30 units of that, I switched to economics because I was interested in economics. And I took 30 units of that and decided that all the money was in computer science, and didn't really have the ability or the time to get into computer science. So I went into computer information systems, and I studied Microsoft certification. I became a Microsoft certified systems systems engineer. And the first thing, I got a master's degree in computer informations, started teaching at community colleges, got hired and ended up getting a tenure in the computer science department at Butte College. Been teaching there for about 17 years. And in the meantime, I've been taking classes or learning or trying to start companies, doing my own stuff. And a couple of years ago, I started homeschooling my daughter, and I realized that philosophy was something that I had never really learned, and that it seemed like it was something that was important. So we started studying philosophy together about 20 minutes every day. And I started learning all this stuff about Plato and Aristotle and things that, that made me think about things differently. And one of the questions I had was, you've got this Bitcoin and you've got this gold and you've got this paper money. What is money? What's the definition of money? And then I realized, and I was working on a PhD in computer information system, that it was an information system, and that money played the role as data. And so it was a physical implementation of a database. And instead of having a table and then rows and then cells, what we have is every person is like a row in a table, and our pockets are like the cells, and the money is the data that's in the cell, and it's distributed. And I took a look at the island of Yap and how it worked, and I realized that it was like the Bitcoin. It was like the blockchain. They had a public ledger system. They have this village square where everybody can see what's going on, And it was pretty much the same thing. Looked at tally sticks and started, thinking about things and writing about things. And I decided to create my own currency based on what I think is the rules of databases that we have, something called integrity and physical integrity, logical integrity, and created the CloudCoin. It is a data structure that is designed to be permanently on the internet, just like the blockchain. It should not be destroyable. And so that's when I started getting in and talking to people. But I don't have really any experience in business or marketing or actually even digital currencies. I wasn't really expecting to get into digital currencies. It just so happened that it's like, oh, wow, I know all the answers to this. I can do this. And I just kind of fell into my lap. So that's my story.
Wow. Okay. I totally respect that. And you're the kind of guy I want to do business with. That's very impressive. My story follows kind of a different path, but I basically was starting out wanting to be an inventor and figured that the most interesting things were electronics, so I went into electrical engineering. And I finished up my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and won this Link Foundation scholarship to go get a master's degree. Went to Penn State, did one term there, and the Air Force said, hey, how would you like an all expenses paid master's degree while you draw your full salary as a second lieutenant?
Oh, nice.
I'll do that. So I went out to Institute of Technology at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Fantastic.
And, studied guidance and control, and that got me in a position where I did a stint right down the hill from that lab in the Air Force Flight Dynamics Laboratory. And while I was doing that, I got commissioned as a regular officer. You start out going through ROTC, you're a reserve officer, but I got my regular commission during that process and an opportunity to go teach at the Air Force Academy.
Wow.
So I said, yeah, I'll do that. I didn't know whether I had the necessary skills to be an instructor, but okay. And so I went out there to Colorado Springs and got the chance to teach, guidance and control, orbital mechanics, all that kind of stuff that I summarize as rocket science.
Yes.
Teaching people how ICBMs work and that sort of thing. And, it's really cool when you're teaching there because when you walk into the classroom, the room has to come to attention.
Yes.
So I did all that. And then I was all set to get sent off for a PhD when I saw somebody else who had done the PhD and had made it clear to major in about 18 years, didn't get his permanent professorship for political reasons at the academy. I thought, wow, you could do a whole career here, and at the last minute when you're about to clinch a professorship, you could get the rug pulled out from under you. So I said, I'm going to go into industry. So I finished out 6 years in the Air Force and then went into industry, and I worked on about 17 different R&D programs, all based on that background. So unmanned air, ground, sea, and space systems. And the reason that I left the Air Force was to avoid going into a management position because that's what officers do.
Yes.
And I wanted to stay an inventor. But ever since then, I've been in a management position one way or the other, leading these different projects, which has been fun. And so I went through all of that, did interesting things like Mars rovers and little airplanes that you can shoot out of a 5-inch Navy gun, and they inflate their wings and fly away.
Oh, neat.
All kinds of cool little systems like that. And eventually got to 2008, where I had a chance to actually deploy to Iraq as a civilian team lead, to lead the ground station team for a surveillance system whose job it was to keep track of everything that was happening in an entire Iraqi city, in this case, Fallujah. And so the vehicles that we had would be orbiting above Fallujah and looking down and watching every single thing that happened. The people looked like ants, but you could see every person in the entire town out on the streets anyway, and all the vehicles and everything. And our job was to oversee the Iraqi elections, make sure that no bad people were coming around to hurt anybody, that sort of thing. And I finished that up, came back, worked another couple years on some other interesting projects, and then realized that we had in 2008 the big crash. And I said, I don't trust the stock market, and I don't like having my 401k tied up. Mm-hmm. And I said to the company, I want to take my money out of the 401k and do something else with it that's outside the system. And they said, well, I'm sorry, but our policy is that you can take it with you when you're more than the age. You're already old enough to do it, but as long as you work for us, you can't have your money. And I said, okay, I don't work for you anymore. And so that's when I went and started doing entrepreneurial things. And I was literally spending New Year's Eve on my knees in a parking lot at Bull Durham Stadium down in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, while Dan Larimer, my son, was talking in my ear, monitoring the software. And so I was turning the screwdriver, and he was downloading the software, and we were doing the automated parking system for the entire Bull Durham Stadium, 3 different large parking garages.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
awesome.
that was also an autonomous unmanned system for parking.
Unmanned.
That's wonderful.
So I went ahead with that, and then Dan rescued me from a fate worse than death by saying, "Hey, I've invented BitShares. You want to come run the company to help me develop it?" And so that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. He went on after developing BitShares to do Steemit and now EOS, but he left me with his firstborn, and basically my job is to bring new business and new opportunities to the BitShares system.
Well, it seems like you guys have been very successful.
Quite amazing to me, really, but it's been a labor of love. I do it 7 days a week, except when I go to church on Sunday and on Saturday night when I have to make my Sunday school lesson. The rest of the time, I have to pay attention to my wife once in a while too. That's also required.
Sure.
But any time that's not in one of those more important duties is spent, trying to promote BitShares any way I can.
Well, I know that feeling. CloudCoin has become my life. I even dream about it, so there's not much time alone.
Oh wow, you dream about it. Come on. I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second here. Just 1 second.
It's a very exciting time that we're in right now because we're seeing these new technologies that really have the chance to affect every human being on the planet and really change everything for the better. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're both lucky to be part of that and to be part of this frontier.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. There isn't any other better time in history to be. But it can be the best of times and the worst of times. We are at that very threshold of which way the future is going to go.
Yes.
And if there's any single one thing that can influence the direction we go, short of thermonuclear war, is what we're trying to do between the two of us.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And
when I met both of you guys, I fell in love with both of you all. I mean, I talked to you on the phone first, Stan, and I think even that day I said, look, I want to be, I remember saying I wanted to be your face at that point. The very first day I talked to you, I don't know if you remember, but I said, hey, I don't say this often on the first phone call. And when I also met Sean, after I interviewed him, and I think Sean, I even told you either that night or the next day, I said, normally, I never say this, but I just wanted to say I love you. Because do you remember me saying that? I said, oh my gosh, I just want to say I love you. Because everything you guys both said were things I'd been looking for in people to, move forward with. And that's not easy to find. So I know that we were, Sean was looking to get on some sort of exchange. And so anyway, that's really what this is about. Besides getting to know you to get to know each other. As you guys both know, I wanted to put you on Blue Rock Talk just chatting, but I didn't think that we could do this someday. So this is way better.
That's great.
And we can talk once we have something if that's the case.
Yeah, I could tell you about a couple projects that we're working on. One project is we're creating a new corporation called RAIDA, and it's going to be it's a Delaware corporation. We got some lawyers in Utah working on it. and they're going to put together this company that we can use to raise money, and that's going to kind of hold this RAIDA technology that we have, and we're going to use that to develop all kinds of neat, fun stuff that we're thinking about. So that's one of the projects that we're working on. But one of the projects that's been very stubborn is that we would like CloudCoin to be on an exchange so that we could have some kind of market cap, and we would understand what its value is, and that we could, be in the list of all the other currencies. But we have not been able to do that, and I'm not exactly sure why, because I think that some of the coins that are there, that are on these exchanges shouldn't be there. But I imagine it's because we have, number one, we have a completely different API. And but in many ways, our API is kind of like physical money, like the dollar, in that it can be treated like fiat currency in an exchange. And so it would have the same inconvenience of dealing with CloudCoin as you would have with dealing with, say, the dollar or yen or something like that.
Or physical gold, right?
Yeah, or physical gold, right? Yeah.
I think you are closer to being digital gold than Bitcoin.
Okay. I think you're right, because we're actually physical, and we, CloudCoin takes up physical space, and where Bitcoin is on a public ledger somewhere. Of course, it's taking up physical space too, but it's not on the person's computer. It's not on the person's hard drive or on their USB drive or what have you, like we have.
Can you, Sean, explain to him a little bit more about CloudCoin, just in case he hasn't learned at all about it, and also RAIDA, if you're ready to tell him about RAIDA?
Oh, sure. So when I looked at creating money, I thought, well, all we have to do is just figure out whether it's real or not. We don't have to track every transaction that's ever happened with a blockchain. And so what we need is a counterfeit detection system. And I actually had been working on I was working on object recognition systems as part of my dissertation, and that was basically to be able to look at a picture of money a picture of something and figure out what's there. And I started studying things that were flat and two-dimensional, like playing cards, and then I wanted to be able to tell the difference between a $100 bill and a $1 bill. And so I was working on systems where I was actually trying to detect what money was and different. And so we came up with this RAIDA system. The RAIDA system is a system in which instead of the person having an account, all the money has an account. And so every CloudCoin has an account. And in fact, it's got 25 different accounts with 25 different independent clouds that don't talk to each other, except they'll vouch for each other. And so what this allows us to do is we can authenticate a CloudCoin all in parallel all over the world in less than a second. And we think that if we have the right servers and the right software, we can do hundreds of thousands of these authentications every second, and maybe even more, because of the way that we can split up the load. And so we have a very scalable system, and we've never had any problems with performance. And we've never had really any problems at all with that. We've got the front end, which we don't really have we haven't had really any programmers. Most of the stuff has been done by system administrators, and we did have a programmer that we hired, and I had to create a program just so I could test the system, and it turned out that programmer didn't do any work at all in like months and months. And so we got ready to go live, and there was no program, so we had to use this console application as our software. But the system seems to be working extremely well. It's extremely scalable, and there's still some bugs that we need to work out. We haven't done any user interface, experience. We haven't really tested what is the best way and how people can think about it. But we have achieved some things that I don't think anybody else has achieved. I've heard of something called Mind Bank in Bitcoin, and we've got the same possibility with CloudCoin, and we can disperse the risk of CloudCoins being stolen by storing them in different locations, where with the Bitcoin, if you just lose the private key, then they've got everything that's in that account, So I think that we're going to be a lot more secure. We're going to be a lot more user friendly, and so it's just a matter of time, I think, for us to get our act together and prove our mettle.
Now, one question that I had about your system is, how do you avoid someone making a copy and detect that it's a copy and not the original?
So we can't do that. So like, for example, if I've got a CloudCoin, I could make 5 different copies and put them on different parts of my computer. The trick, Tom, is that I can only spend it once. And so when I go to give it to somebody else, they can take ownership of it one time, and then all of my copies are now bad.
Ah, okay.
So it's not that we can stop them from copying it; it's that we can stop them from spending it twice. That's the trick.
Okay.
And by the way, that causes some confusion because people have it in their email and then they download it and they have it on their hard drive and they make a copy of it over here. And so that it is an issue that we're struggling with to try to make it so that the CloudCoin will move and not be copied. And we do have this thing called Cloud Bank, and it will send CloudCoins from one bank to another bank through URLs. And by doing that, we can get rid of the copying and file handling. We hope that will make it more user friendly. Okay. We've also got electronic checks as well, but that is an issue.
Okay. Well, that's all just fantastic. And how long does it take to transfer it somewhere, to spend it, so to speak, is a near instantaneous type thing. Is that correct?
That's right. So it depends on how many you have, but if you've got less than 200 notes, it's going to take usually less than 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. If you had a big giant stack of them, because you can have lots of these notes, it might end up taking a few minutes.
Okay, so you're right. So all of that is so different from the current universe of things. I don't see any reason why an exchange couldn't treat your coins the same way. Here's how an exchange would work. You would spend them all to the exchange. The exchange would now be holding all the coins, and they would issue what amounts to their casino money, IOUs that run on their centralized exchange. And now CloudCoin is trading against everything, but it's really just the casino tokens, which work and are compatible with their system. Meanwhile, they have sitting on some cold storage hard drive all of the actual cloud coins. And then when you want to cash out, you cash in the casino chips that they're playing with on their exchange, and they send you cloud coins back. Whoever bought them, they send them back to. And so that same exact model is what could be done on BitShares, right? Anybody serving in that trusted role, the same role that an exchange has, including your own company or a company we might form together, could secure those cloud coins in their own cache using whatever, keep them offline or whatever, and meanwhile issue onto the exchange the moral equivalent of what we call a user-issued asset, but it's a poker chip, right? Can be traded against anything on the BitShares network at light speed. Okay, so whether you did it on a centralized exchange or on BitShares, it would function the same way. In fact, it would function the same way as we do with our gold-backed Quint. Okay, there's a big storage facility in Idaho with laser shields like from Mission Impossible all around a deep underground full of gold, and they issue the Quint, which is essentially an IOU for gold in that vault.
Right.
You could follow that same model. It would all be based on your reputation that that you have secured them, and yet people could trade them at the full speed, 1.5 second average transaction time, maximum of 3 seconds, and it could trade against anything else on the BitShares network that way. And the only thing you would do is provide the service of, when someone wants to cash out, you'll send them a real cloud coin. But otherwise, some people would prefer to leave them in your security. And I think your security could be less hackable than a typical exchange because it's sufficiently different, and because of the way you can make it into a physical product if you want to. So you could build the equivalent of the vault we have for gold out in Utah, only it holds your cloud coins. Furthermore, you could contract with lots of other companies to do the same function, to put cloud coins onto the BitShares network to trade while they hold them. In other words, you don't have to be a single point of failure. You could imagine a decentralized set of depositories for cloud coins. And now you are doing the same thing as what an exchange would do. And the only difference right now is we're willing to support you on the BitShares side, and you may or may not have any other cooperative exchanges out there. So, that would be something that we could do as a little joint venture together to, put together that system. And then, of course, people can still transfer cloud coins and spend them at the native level that you've already designed.
Yeah.
Or they can trade them up on the thing, which is exactly, by the way, to give you another parallel, I just described the Quint, but let's look at Bitcoin Latina. Okay, that is a clone of the Ethereum network. It's doing its coins, but those coins are then backing for a corresponding thing on the BitShares network, which is Bitcoin Latina poker chips. So we have gold poker chips, we can have CloudCoin poker chips, and we can have Bitcoin Latina poker chips, and for that matter, licensed securities. That's one of the other things we want to specialize in, securities that are totally approved by the SEC. And so all these high quality coins is what we want to bring to BitShares. Certainly there's nothing stopping people using BitShares networks from generating Joe's Pizza and Lube Shop coins. That's fine. We want to have high school students experiment and do that, and you can do that too. But this suite of really high quality innovative coins existing on there and able to trade, even though they're backed by things off network. If you want to own something that has no counterparty risk, you use BitShares, or you use any of the assets that are market pegged assets that have no counterparty. But if you want to back it by high quality stuff, you could back it by CloudCoin or gold or Bitcoin Latina.
And so does that mean that I could trade my cloud coins for gold?
Yes.
Okay. And does that mean does it mean that I could trade it for Japanese yen and dollars?
I don't think yen is on there yet, but it could be put on there.
So it could be put on there?
Chinese yuan, dollars, euros, those kind of things. I think there's rubles and pesos.
Okay. So it does go between fiat money, and it does go to a metal, and it also goes, I guess, to other things that might be considered company shares and things like that.
Yep. Yeah. And you can use two different models for fiat money. Okay, counterparty free or with counterparty. Counterparty example would be OpenUSD. It's from OpenLedger. They do the function of being the depository for fiat dollars or fiat.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay.
Wow.
And then they put on their IOUs and they trade. Okay. Or you could use the market pegged assets, which are backed by BitShares instead of some other company. And, that has no counterparty. And boy, they're going to town using BitCNY right now. So all of these things are available on a very innovative platform that we'll be taking into EOS technology, which is what Dan's working on right now. And so, we still have to figure out exactly what's the best way to use that technology. But the point is, when it does, it will be interfaced to everything happening in the EOS universe, which is, like Ethereum on steroids is what some people speculate EOS stands for, although Dan denies it.
Okay. Well, fantastic. It sounds wonderful. And so I'm definitely, want to put CloudCoin on BitShares, and so I'd like to move forward with that.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. And any of your other technology that you may be talking about, we ought to also discuss, because
Okay.
I'm about to release a contract to a well-known developer in the BitShares community to figure out how to incorporate EOS technology. And it may be that some of the technology you have could be incorporated into that major upgrade. Yeah, I have no idea, but I'd welcome you to join in the conversation of what design changes to BitShares in upgrading to BitShares 3.0 do we need in order to maximize the use of the technology you have available.
Sounds very good. We're working on stop the hack technology to make it impossible for people to leak documents and for hackers to be able to get into credit card information, that sort of thing. And what you're doing might be marketable. We might be able to develop that technology, and you guys might be able to market it, meaning that you could sell it as a BitShare type product. They could use those tokens in order to buy storage space or something like that, or these to pay for services. And so yeah, I think there's lots of room for potential collaboration.
Okay, well, happy to do that in any form that you like. One of the things we do, like we did with Quintric, is we formed a joint venture with a gold depository in Utah. We brought our technology, they brought their technology, and we're producing a product that is starting to sell privately right now. So maybe we can invent some sort of a similar joint venture where we build our technologies together in whatever way makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's very possible.
Okay.
In fact, that's generally what we do. Every time that we work with somebody, we try to partner with them and try to bring them in so that they've got a stake in CloudCoin and that they're, that they want it to succeed as much as we do.
Okay. Well, what I'd suggest that you and I do is offline, when Connie's not watching, let's figure out what kind of company we can create together. But in the meantime,
are you kidding? That's the fun part. Just turn off the recorder. That's all.
She can listen in as long as she turns off the recorder.
Absolutely, that's the fun part. I love it.
But in the meantime, what I found interesting about this conversation is it might give your viewers an insight into how business is done in this industry. Okay, what you just watched was what happens a lot of times as people come and interact, and that's how real innovation and growth is going to happen, I think. Yes, people will be inventing new technologies that stand alone, but people getting together and saying, if we take this and cross them, we'll get some new kind of hybrid that adds value to the system.
Crypto kitties. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah, these are the real crypto kitties. You just watched a mating dance resulting in a new crypto kitty.
That's right.
And Sean, this is what they created. Wow, take a look.
If we produce something out of this, that is the real way to spawn new innovation, is by cross-pollinating two different technology streams that had nothing in common before. And what you get out of it is some brand new innovative hybrid that could really catch on.
Absolutely. Sounds wonderful.
I knew you guys would love each other. I can tell with the technologies that you both have and be able to incorporate them, and how enthusiastic you guys are about everything and the passion that you have. So I'm very happy to see this. So.
And it seems like you guys have some very good developers. I mean, obviously your son is a genius, and he has been able to, move mountains, it seems like. I mean, he's done some incredible stuff, and he
gave me a warning that he was going to suck all the oxygen out of the Southern Virginia area by hiring. He says, I don't know where you're going to get your people, but I'm taking everyone I can find out of Virginia Tech.
That's fantastic. And so we could, certainly use some of that help. in when it comes time to develop, if you guys have it extra, because let's just say that it's challenging for us to find folks.
Yeah, that's the case out there now. It turns out that all the heavy lifting for BitShares has been done for a couple of years.
That's nice.
Yeah, there's some heavy thing that we'll be starting with the upgrade to BitShares EOS or whatever we call it. But in the meantime, the integration activity we need to pull off a product like the Quint only for cloud, we can do with the team we've got. So
Fantastic.
Put your team and our team together. I don't think we'll need a whole lot of extra blockchain engineer geniuses, but that's just to get started, get you on the exchange and do that stuff. Then we start looking about your other technologies and what we can put into the march to EOS. There, every single thing about the current BitShares system can be re-examined in the process. We're going to do it in such a way that it grows the value for BitShares holders, but we're not constrained to having to modify the existing chain. We may leave the existing chain in place and put something in the middle between EOS and BitShares 2.0 that connects them and adds new value and expands the system. And in that glue, whatever it is an opportunity to engineer in whatever you got in mind.
Fantastic. Sounds wonderful. Then let's plan on expanding our conversation and taking this to the next level. And hopefully we can do a press release pretty soon or something and announce that we're going to be working together. I think that would be good press.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd love that.
And I'd be I'll be very happy to tell my people. I've told my people so many times that, I've got this going and I've got that, and they've been let down.
That's always the challenge that we face. I've got a reputation of having tons of cool things, and people are saying, when are we going to get them?
Yeah.
Okay. And, they don't seem to understand. I'm a farmer. I know what you have to do. You plant a lot of seeds, and then you wait till they come up, and then you have to weed. This one's weak, that's not good. And you leave the strongest seeds there with enough soil between them that each can thrive. Okay? You got to plant a lot more seeds than you're going to get out of it. And so the question is always, I've always liked this idea of interacting with the community. Tell them what I'm working on. Tell them every seed I've planted. Okay? But there's just enough people out there that can't take that because they take every seed planted as a promise that it's going to grow into a mighty oak tree. Okay? They don't understand the fact that some seeds aren't even going to sprout. All right? So I've had to back off from sharing all this wonderful inside baseball kind of stuff because there's too many people out there that even some of the smartest people in our community look at the list of things I've got going and say, you can't pull all those off. Okay? And, well, maybe I won't, but I'm going to pull off enough of them that it's going to make a difference.
Yes.
And so, that's why I'm working it the way I do, and that's why I have conversations like this. I'm always looking for new opportunities, and given your track record and background, I'm pretty sure if we put something together, it'll succeed. And I think we can make it succeed pretty quickly too, because we've already done the work once on the Quint, and there's no reason we can't take that same team of experts and have them work with you to build a CloudCoin on BitShares version. So I'm all up for it.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you something it's a secret, but it's not a secret. It's like we're going to release this next month, so it's it's going to become public knowledge soon. But I don't know that. Let me see why I wouldn't want anybody to know about it. Maybe I should. Maybe it shouldn't be a secret. But I've had lawyers tell me, don't tell people what you're up to. So maybe I'm just a little gun shy or something. But we're working on this thing that I'm going to call, and even that, I'm telling you the name. I hope that they've got it already patented or copywritten, and that they got the website and everything else.
Better do it. Connie publishes this, I'll tell you that.
That's right.
Hey, I'm only going to do anything if you all want me to. It's not a big deal. I am in it for this part. I just happen to do this for a living, but I love this part of it. I love the
Connie,
inside
if you would do me a favor and just, like blank that word out.
I'll turn it off now.
Y'all
ready? Hey, I'll turn it off now. And hey, Blue Rockers, that was it. It was Sean Worthington and Stan Larimer. More to come. We'll see what happens after they sign some paperwork, and if they do. Later, Blue Rockers. All right, okay. Hold on.
There we go.
Okay, we're good. All right.
That's an awesome episode, Connie. That is just really exciting, and I think it'll give people a lot of inside baseball of how things work in this. Super well done.